Hello everyone, Hollywood Big Boss here with KeiyarlaDraga, and today we are joined by our glorious leader in NW 2.0, RedMyst.
It's nice to see you guys.
It is so good to see you again, my friend. It's good for you to invite us here. I mean, after your two recent visits in Pontiac, thanks for extending the invitation.
It's not a problem, man. Anything for a friend.
And look at this. The NW 2.0 Intercontinental Championship belt and the Duelists Frontières United States Heritage Championship belt, formerly American Outlaws NWA belt, which was restored, re-leathered, looks beautiful. But anyway, last time we kind of left off with American Outlaws passing, but I feel the need to jump forward a little bit, take some things out of order. Let's address some of the elephants in the room.
Okay.
Your retirement duel with the Executioner. As many people know, it was a several-month process that begun after Lord of Gehenna's retirement. Would you care to enlighten the people about this? Because it seems a lot of people are confused.
Well, I don't know how else to put it, so let me give it a try. This whole duel, it didn't matter whether I won or lost or it was a draw. I was bound to walk away from the traditional format rules. And knowing this, I had to decide on a deck to use against Executioner. The moment I found out he was using his dragon deck, I knew exactly which deck to pick.
And the funniest thing about that dragon deck is that's a dragon deck that you knew that me and him had been working on for over 10 years. That Chaos Dragon deck. Not just simple black and white, but improved upon, strengthened as new cards came out. In the traditional format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not that advanced format bullshit that we don't even recognize, but traditional format. And what deck was it that you chose to play against the Executioner?
I chose to use my DDDs. Funny thing, I should mention that though. My DDDs, based on what I knew about his deck last, I knew full well that I was going into a gunfight with a knife, if you know what I'm referencing.
You were a total underdog. Like, if you were going to win, it was going to be a miracle.
Yes.
And let's add another thing into that too, because they need to be made aware of this as well. That was not a deck that you had built. You had actually gotten it off of another person.
Yes, I acquired it from a different person, left it in stock, and purposely did it because I knew.
Do you want me to name names?
Nah, there's no point.
No names. Pyrex Kid.
But I knew full well that going into this, I was probably not going to win. I knew full well, and I chose to do it anyway because I wanted to end it. I wanted to end the misery and the torment and stuff that I've been dealing with in the traditional format rules and any Konami-based tournament.
Because you had had not just one group coming after you to join them and betray Duelists and Frontières, but two groups. Names will not be named.
Actually, there's a third as well.
Interesting.
But I will not go into detail as to who they are or why they were after me.
But we pretty much know you're the best duelist in Olney. Like, there's no disputing that. Even before Olney Heritage was founded, you were the very best duelist. You were the one guy that no one could beat. And everyone wanted you, but no one can have you.
Well, it's more or less like you're trying to hunt something down. Sometimes it's elusive, sometimes it isn't. I'm the elusive one.
Not to mention, they didn't even realize that NW 2.0 had restructured, rebuilt in the shadows during this entire time. When you had made that first promo video demanding to face NW 2.0, you had already been recognized as the new leader of the group and doing a shadow war to throw off the Knights of Pontiac, to throw off everyone else, and to take care of the problems that only Heritage was plagued with at the time, unfortunately. But that duel is special. you went in, and we had 2 tapes going. We had my tape from the cell phone, which we were trying to YouTube live it, but we couldn't, so we just had to tape it and then upload the video afterwards, which everyone was able to see your hand and everything in the course of the duel. However, what a lot of people don't know is that KeiyarlaDraga, and I had even said on camera, she was recording the executioner's hand the whole way through. And she saw that both duels, not one, but both, that he drew into the stone cold nuts. It's like flopping a royal flush 2 hands in a row in poker.
It's next to impossible to pull off.
Not only next to impossible, but it's next to impossible. You're not going to beat that. Your opponent flops a royal flush, you're dead. I mean, the first duel, yes, Executioner set his trap. He put down his little DNA surgery, he put down super polymerization, he summoned his 1 dragon. You got a strong starting hand. You were able to pendulum summon your first turn.
Yep, I was. And I'm aware that I made a mistake in that particular part too.
Unfortunately, you sent the pendulum monsters after the Executioner used super polymerization to your graveyard instead of your extra deck.
Yes, and therein lies the small issue that I did. It didn't matter that they were in the graveyard or that they were still there or anything. He used a fusion-based card on the monsters that I summoned, so there would have been no way for me to replenish them anyway. Additionally, you throw in the fact that the Executioner killed you before it could become a factor in the duel. So it did not matter.
You pendulum summoned, you got your monsters out, he used super polymerization for 5-headed dragon. You can't pendulum summon because you've already done it. You have to pass turn. Executioner summons Cyberstein. Game over.
Yeah, there was literally no way out. You're stuck in an impossible spot that you cannot get out of. It's as plain as day. It's black and white. There was no way out of that.
And not to mention, the use of Executioner Cyberstein in that duel was scary.
In all my time, I have never once faced a Cyberstein before, but I've heard of what it can do, and I've witnessed it firsthand thanks to that match.
And you were just made aware that this thing is a lot more deadly than people give it credit for. Second duel, once again, you would go first this time. However, you drew into possibly the worst hand that you could have. That deck was saturated probably about 2/3 monsters and only a mere 1/3 magic and trap cards. And you drew nothing but magic and trap cards your second hand. The Executioner cut your deck on camera.
He did, and then there was that where that Yada came out. It was over once that
Yata-Garasu, there was no move you could have made. Legally, there was no move you could make.
No spells, none of my spells would have done anything. I was screwed. I was dead in the water. He could have, if he felt the need, he could have kept pecking me with Yada for countless turns. But the one thing he did that I respect him for is he just straight up took me out.
He finished you off.
He finished me off like I had wanted.
Yep. And Executioner is very noted for going for the jugular. Like, yeah, he could have sat back and just tormented you, but he gave you the finale to that duel that we all needed to see. It's not what we wanted, but it's what we needed. Like, that was a shocking end to that duel. But getting back to the topic at hand, that Yata-Garasu was a death blow.
It was. I mean, once he's out, if you don't got anything in your hand, you're dead. You're like a fish on land. You know, you're dead.
And I thought it was interesting the contrast to hands that we had. The first duel, you get one of the best hands you could possibly get, only for the Executioner to counter in a way that you have nothing to beat. The second duel, you get a hand with literally nothing. And you're like, okay, I gotta try and top deck my ass out of this. There was no move you could make.
As soon as he summoned Yada, I was like, no, that's not cool. You know?
Yeah, because you weren't expecting that one.
Truthfully, I don't think any of us was expecting that. If we're being completely honest here.
I was. As I said, I've worked with that deck for numerous years. And that traditional format Blue Eyes Chaos deck is by far the deadliest traditional format deck I've ever played against. My Harakathy deck has never beaten it. My Merrick deck, my strongest deck, has never beaten it. My Blue Eyes deck has never beaten it. KeiyarlaDraga, she could even tell you. None of her decks have ever beaten that one. It is that deadly. But I feel that we've covered this subject enough. Is there anything else you want to say?
I mean, there really is nothing else to say. It didn't matter, as I said, whether I won, lost, or drew. I was going to walk away from the traditional format as well as advanced format and Konami formats because of all the misery it was causing.
It just no longer interested you.
Mm-hmm.
And why continue to play something when you have no joy in it?
Why continue to play something when the only, there's, when it came to Konami format, there was very few people, very, very few that were able to beat me on a daily basis.
And not to mention a lot of the other players don't have a good grasp of the rule set either.
I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. And the other fact that they didn't even figure out that you were the leader of NW 2.0 the entire time. None of them figured that.
Oh, but there is one thing I should mention that a lot of people don't know. That duel between me and the Executioner wasn't meant for me to entirely walk away from dueling as a general rule.
Ah, you are very right. You see, the story for that duel was originally discussed for American Outlaw. As many people know, American Outlaw's health before his passing was not the greatest. And it had been suggested that as a final swan song, a final bow out of the league before he handed it over to RedMyst, that he have one final duel, one final storyline against the Executioner. Well, American Outlaw, unfortunately, we lost him before that could ever happen. And then just as time went on, it became more advantageous not to just leave it where it was, but to use it. Which leads us to addressing another elephant in the room. Let's start with Lord of Gehenna, first of all. Let's start with that sack of shit.
I mean, when you're sitting there causing problems and you're sitting there trash talking and whatnot, what do you expect is going to happen? I mean, it's not rainbows and sunshines when stuff like that happens.
I mean, the audacity of him to do some of the stuff that he was doing. Like, and I'm not even going to dignify it with acknowledging it, but you and me both know that it was to a boiling point. Even his friend, Skotádi, was fed up with it, or getting close to it at that time.
Had Executioner not done what he did, I would have took him out myself.
The funniest part is that you were able to trick him into calling out the Executioner in a way that you knew that he would actually respond to.
I know, it was hilarious. I was sitting there, there are so many decks out there, and I gave him the impression that the Executioner was using one of the weakest decks possible, knowing that that's not the case. I set him up for a trap. Executioner
is also a multi-time world champion, which is something Lord of Gehenna never did. I mean, that duel went so beautifully because Executioner was able to hijack his own Crimson Nova, the Dark Cubic Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just works so beautifully. I mean, there aren't words to describe it when a plan like that goes off without a hitch. And then to shock everyone, because he got so boo-boo-faced and everything after that duel, he just left his deck there. And you got a hold of it. And then he's like, nah, I don't want it anymore. And what did you do with it?
Well, considering the Executioner won that match, I figured it was only fair that he got the deck.
Very true. However, he didn't keep it, surprisingly. Even me. You'd think that he'd want to keep a trophy like that. But
instead,
a greater offer was made.
mm-hmm.
Skotádi approached the Executioner wanting Lord of Gehenna's deck, and he was willing to trade his tournament-used deck, Konami-sanctioned tournament-used Chaos Max Dragon deck that was used in Las Vegas. I mean, holy shit. And he actually placed with that thing. I mean, holy shit.
He did, man.
How could Executioner not say yes to that?
Hey, I would have, if I was in the Executioner's position, I would have jumped at it. You know?
I mean,
jumped.
What more can you say?
Other than,
that's a deck that did, what, over 12,000 damage or something ridiculous like that to you?
Yeah, the one that killed me like 4 or 5 times over.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, you're not just dead, you are...
I'm incinerated, man.
Yeah, there isn't even a body left at that point.
By that point, there's just particles, if that.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, that was one of the most brutal decks that I've ever seen, and I'm just lucky that through some wheeling and dealing on my part, that I now own that deck.
Mm-hmm.
Executioner got a nice little trade out of me for that thing. Because it's like, I got an actual Konami tournament-used deck. Oh, man. And one that actually placed in the regionals.
Delicious, right?
I know. It's beautiful. It really is. Granted, I've made a couple small modifications to it to make it work for our rule set, but still.
It still works all the same.
Ain't that the truth?
And the funniest thing about the whole situation with Lord of Gehenna, I noticed him, Skotádi was working for us the entire time.
Yeah. We had that little meeting with him after Gehenna left, and oh boy did he switch sides quick. Now granted, he's taking time getting Sin City Duelist League up off the ground, but it's like, it's a marathon, it's not a race, people. I don't care if he takes 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, he's working on it. He's taking his time, he's getting all the right people in all the right places. Las Vegas, Nevada is a big place, and he wants to do it right. He's going through college right now, too. So I'm going to give him all the time he needs to get his shit together to get the job done. Not just done, but right. And let's talk about something else that happened after that whole, retirement thing. That whole string of card burnings that he did.
Ah, the It's a Beautiful Day one.
Yep.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, man.
You see, originally, I thought about, something of that sort long and hard, and then when I told you about it, you thought it was awesome.
But I didn't want you to actually physically torch your own decks. I'm like, no, we don't need to start at square zero anymore here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your Element Dragon deck's amazing. We don't want to destroy that. Your Blue Eyes deck's amazing. We don't want to destroy that. Lord of Gehenna's Burning Abyss deck, on the other hand, yeah, that actually got burned to a crisp. That's gone. So, Lord of Gehenna, fuck you. But still, though, the fact that it was your idea, and it's just like, wait a second, we can really do something with this. Like, we can really make this mean something.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do out of the kindness of your heart?
I gave you a bunch of useless link monsters that I had, and we took your old card sleeves after I bought you brand new card sleeves and deck boxes. Go ahead and show them off again. Go ahead, show them off. I bought them for you, for our glorious leader, because you only deserve the best. And we torched those old card sleeves. We torched those dummy decks.
Now, granted, those decks that we torched, they looked like my decks. Not the case. Now, the Burn Abyss one, yeah,
that doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about that. And everyone bought it. They thought you were done. They thought you were finished.
I could very much remember the explosion of things that happened, the reaction that happened after that.
And the only thing which we're doing up in Pontiac is laughing our asses off because our leader has fooled everyone.
Deception, man, at its finest. What can I say?
NW 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
You brought us back to prominence. You won the Intercontinental Championship when the new belt debuted.
I mean, I single-handedly stole the show that night, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, you did. But let's get kind of back on the Lord of Gehenna track, because there are two more things we need to address. Which these two aren't anywhere near as good memory or happy subjects as what we've been talking about. First, we want to discuss Violent T and his dismissal. Now, I'm not going to say what happened. I'm not going to, drag someone through the mud. My philosophy is everyone deserves their day in court. If they're accused of something, then I'm going to let them have their chance to go out, say their piece, and everything. However, as per our regulations, we will suspend them until time comes up that, hey, it's either been dropped or they get prosecuted and punishments doled out. And he decided to step down, walk away, before any of that could come to pass.
And he did the right thing doing that.
Yes. He did the right thing. Like, I didn't even have to ask. He's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to put you guys through this. I'm not going to ask you to defend me or any of that stuff. Because it's like, it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, it's not good.
Well, the best thing we can do is just hope you find peace.
Yeah. Like, as far as will he ever be welcomed back in the group again, that's a solid no. Like, even though he chose to walk away, it's like the amount of what was happening at that time with him is just so, yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah, like, he knows that we don't need that. He doesn't need it. It's not worth it, so, yeah. And I'm just glad that he had the mindset, the head, to actually just be like, no, I'm just going to walk away. And last but not least, another subject which I've been dreading, but it needs to be addressed.
Oh, boy.
Raven. For years, ever since the first case of him starting having his issues, we've told people for years something's wrong. For years and years and years. This is going back to about early 2011, mid-2011. His mom dies, he tries to kill himself, no one cares. It took him beating the crap out of his dad in a parking lot on camera for someone to fucking listen to what we were saying. Got the proper diagnosis, bipolar schizophrenia. Not his fault. Once again, you can't control body chemistry and stuff, you can only treat it. And Outlaw's passing happened, and he was getting help. He had gone into a religious camp, get people, put him on the right track and everything. It seemed like for the first time in his life he would have control over his life. Like, positive note, the ultimate comeback story. But with the bad blood that had happened on his way out after his dad died, we wouldn't let him back in, but there would be, a silver lining to this whole thing. But then, when no one else is around after the fact, that he not only destroys his own life, but the life of someone else, well, we can't condone that. And I'm not going to say anything, because I not only have to protect him, even though some people be like he may not deserve it, I have to protect him, and I have to protect the victim that was affected by what happened. But for the record, publicly, Raven was let go from the Only Heritage Duelist League for the final time in 2017. Since then, he's had nothing to do with us, he will continue to have nothing to do with us. That's a promise. It's just like there's a line in life that you don't cross, and for what happened to have happened, and us to have warned people for that long, and for them to just ignore it. We did all we could to. So now that the, serious shit's been addressed, maybe we can get back to some of the, some of the good stuff. Because NW 2.0, you had your little sit out after the duel and everything, you had your decks hidden, biding your time working on them, upgrading them. Then
sitting back watching all the chaos, that was the highlight of it all.
And no one was aware. Very few of us knew what was really going on. Only our fellow brethren in NW 2.0. You, me, KeiyarlaDraga, Savile, Executioner. I mean, usual suspects, but different leader. Different style of doing business.
But the beauty of it is that we were clever enough about it to where no one caught on until it was too late.
Yep, and your return in Extreme Elimination surprised everyone. Completely surprised everyone. Revealing that brand new freaking deck. I mean, just so beautiful.
Yes, that was awesome. I couldn't believe that I won Extreme Elimination. Couldn't believe it.
And you beat Savile to do it.
Yeah.
The first member of Only Heritage to ever beat Savile.
The first and only one to have ever done it.
Exactly.
To this day.
Yep. And then afterwards, what'd you do? You retained the world title against Savile.
I beat him again.
And then we started the next part of our plan, which was I let you and Savile take our world title belt and start filming some vignettes with it.
The beauty of it all was the whole point behind that. It was just so good.
Cause chaos. Make everyone question what's really going on. NW 2.0 truly is finished. But Savile and RedMyst have this alliance, which is not only taking the entirety of DSF by storm, but they've actually stolen the Duelists and Frontières World Championship, the physical World Championship belt. And that was our way to find out who we could trust and who we couldn't trust. Well, KeiyarlaDraga's decided to step out for a few minutes and everything, so we'll continue this interview and everything. But it's just amazing that all the people that were like, oh yeah, we want to get with RedMyst and Savile, but not knowing the implications of what they were signing up for. I mean, honestly, what did they think was going to happen? I mean, did you honestly think that I would let you walk away with my championship belt without me knowing?
No!
The truth is that they had it the whole time. I just knew about it.
And when the time was right, Savile took them back to you.
Exactly. But that's not the point, though. The point is that he was able to make all those trips down here and film those videos with you and give the illusion that he was living in Only now when he wasn't. I mean, it just works so beautifully.
And then for you to, do what you did, being all confused about where Savile was, and then all this going down, it was just picture perfect.
And then my counterattack threatened with a lawsuit for the damages for the championship being stolen. I mean, what did you think about that little counter plan?
I won't lie to you, I giggled a little. Because
it's like you're in on the joke.
Yep. And the best part is it was an inside joke for all of us the entire time. Yeah,
it was. I mean, really. I mean, you, me, Savile, Executioner, KeiyarlaDraga, rebuilding NW 2.0 was at the forefront of our minds that entire time. Now, granted, Savile was kind of like scarlet lettered by that and everything. Like, everyone was like, oh, it's him, that kind of thing. But we're like, he knows that he's putting this kind of heat on himself because he can take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not going to affect anything. Plan continues onward.
Yep.
Although there is one thing that we got to apologize for. When we did that first initial video of me saying that NW 2.0 was finished, he was not aware that I was doing that. He was not aware the group was with a new leader. I needed a genuine reaction for that.
I mean, it is what it is. We had to make it look like NWO. Well, at least the old one is dead, but now the new one's arisen. As well, like a phoenix.
Now, after that, immediately after that, I smartened him up and said, here's what's really happened. But I needed his genuine reaction to being like, why are you doing this? Why are you ending this? It needed to end. It needed time to just be out of people's minds, us work behind the scenes, get exactly where we needed to be, and then it's all ours.
Yep. I mean, it was pretty much smooth sailing from that point on.
Yeah. I mean, then we also had the plan for the new Intercontinental Championship belt. Belt fan Dan Meek Man, leatherbydan.com. I'm plugging him here again, people. This works amazing. But anyway, I had gotten to talks with him about the new belt. We had set up a tournament, multiple day tournament, to crown a new champion. But a lot of people didn't know that was going to be a brand new championship belt.
So anyway,
back to where we were. As I said, a lot of people didn't know that was going to be a brand new belt. They thought it was going to be the Duelists and Frontières Intercontinental Championship belt. We even went so far as to change the name publicly of our championship to make people believe that NW 2.0 was completely finished. We removed it from everything we could on our forum, on our YouTube, with the exception of New World Organization Films, which has always been the name of that LLC, which is our film company aspect of things. But then it happened. That Friday, you would defeat Shaggy 3D, advance around in the tournament. Saturday, you had managed to get through me in the finals to claim the brand new Intercontinental Championship belt, NW 2.0's own namesake. And not only that, you added another member to the group, Ray. Care to talk about why we decided to bring her into this whole thing?
Well, I mean, it really is simple. You look at it from two spectrums. The first spectrum is how do you get into the group to begin with, and the second spectrum is why do you get into the group to begin with.
First one is don't ask us, we'll ask you.
Exactly.
It's invitation only.
It's not a matter of signing up for it, it's we decide who ultimately comes and who ultimately goes.
And you have final say on it.
And the reason why I picked her specifically is because she has, you know, an interesting set of skills, interesting set of decks, if you know what I mean.
That Monarch deck, that thing is so brutal. And the fact that we made people actually believe that you had retired her there for a while, I mean, only to do the big reveal. The funniest thing is that a lot of people didn't realize that all those videos that we released that Saturday were filmed the previous day. It's amazing what camera can do. You can hold on to a video for days, weeks, months, and then release it at a later date.
That's the beauty of technology. It's advanced. You know?
Yeah. I mean, anything else would be uncivilized.
Primitive, if you will.
Yeah. But still, though, new Intercontinental Championship belt, new Intercontinental Champion. I mean, didn't that belt look so great on you the first time? I mean,
I never get tired of how beautiful it looks.
Yeah. And then we added another member under the radar. Someone who once again, potential problem causer. But then he finally saw the light. Violent T's partner, a minor holdout over the situation. But it didn't take much after introducing a baseball bat to his head smarten the kid up. Made you laugh about that one again, didn't I?
Yeah. It's as we said, you know, a beating's free of charge.
Yeah. We give out concussions, those are fucking free. I mean...
But he did. He wised up and has done well.
I mean, that whole don't come to us, we'll come to you. We mean that in a very violent, very literal way, yeah. I mean, just the fact that that worked so well, and he never suspected a thing. Like, we got to his house early, we hid the baseball bats and everything, we filmed that video, and then before he could do anything else, he starts heading over to that PT Cruiser, and then BAM! From behind you got him. Just the look on his face of that betrayal and everything. And then I capped it off with a swing of my own to the head. But, oh man, that was just...
It was beautiful. No other way of putting it. But he did...
It's like listening to Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. It's something that... It's art. Like, there is no way to describe it other than just pure art.
But he did finally wise up and saw things.
He saw the light.
Mm-hmm.
He saw the light. And as of this point, only 3 people have held that Intercontinental Championship. 2 of them being NW 2.0 members. You and Shaggy 3D.
Mm-hmm. Camera
decided to pause, so might as well readjust since there's only 2 of us here at the moment.
Yeah.
But anyway, Intercontinental Championship, RedMyst, I mean, was there anything else to be expected though? I mean...
No, nothing else. I mean, I wasn't going to walk away empty-handed, you know, whenever I was going after the title. I wasn't going to walk away empty-handed.
And not to mention that was the perfect day to debut, to re-debut, NW 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect day.
The perfect day, the perfect time, the perfect place.
Yep. And no one suspected that the Tag Team Championship was still on you and Savile. But you guys have still got an iron grip on those, and it's like, yeah. But once again, let's step a little bit back, because we need to address what happened after you took over Only Heritage Duelist League after Outlaw's passing, because we never really touched on that. Like, you gave me the call that night about the accident, what happened and everything, and I ended up having to enact his plans way sooner than...
Believe me, none of us wanted it to be that soon.
None of us did. I mean, all of us still miss him. Like, we really do.
He's like a father to me.
Yeah. I saw him more than my own dad growing up. That's sad but true. Like, he was essentially my dad. Like...
I mean, there really isn't anything else to be said about that.
And he's the one guy who you could go to if you had something going on. Hey, I need to talk. He'd be willing to listen and give you the best advice he could. I mean, because he had been through a lot. But we carried out his wishes. You were made majority owner of Only Heritage Duelist League as per a handshake agreement, because we didn't have the chance to put pen to paper. We had a handshake agreement.
By the time we had the thing to do it, it was too late.
Yeah, because we were supposed to meet him 2 days after that had happened for him to sign all the paperwork. I had it all drawn up. And not to mention, as I said, we had a handshake. We had a verbal contract with him.
We were all in attendance whenever that went down too.
Yep.
Well, all the higher ups anyway were.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, because as you know, I couldn't at the time get the courage until a later date when he told me that January that, hey, I'm in kidney failure. I couldn't talk to him. Like, I was shaken up that bad. And then when I finally had the chance to bring it up, it's like, okay, we got to make you minority owner of the group. We got to have a backup plan in case something unforeseen happens. I prayed to God that it didn't, but
unfortunately, it.
Yeah.
It sucks that everything had to happen the way that it did.
Yeah.
I miss him.
Yeah. Although, out of that whole ordeal, we did end up having 2 members formerly of the Only Heritage Duelist League return. Pyrex Kid and Yvonne. And just like the first time that they were in the group, the second time they shot themselves in the foot. Care to give some details on that whole situation?
Well, I mean, we allowed them back. We gave them one simple rule of not being around a particular person that will not be named.
And this was out of respect to American Outlaw Sean, too. Because it's like, he wanted nothing to do with this guy. Like, he had screwed him over so bad that it's like, I want nothing to do with him. So out of respect for him, yeah, he had passed away. He was gone. But my word to him still means something. If I promise someone something, it's damn sure going to happen. Like, it's going to happen exactly how they wanted it to happen. So we allowed them back in, but we didn't want them bringing in their former associates, which had previously had bad blood with the group. I mean, still had bad blood with the group even.
I mean, when you're given a simple rule, you know, one simple thing.
One condition, that's it. Just don't bring this guy here. That's it. I mean, how hard is it?
It isn't. It's a simple concept. You know, I am a person that tends to be a very reasonable person, and I gave them the benefit of the doubt. But when you sit there and fail me purposely like that, when you sit there and fail me, I'm past the point of negotiations.
Yeah, it's like once they broke that one condition that we had set out for them, it was over. Like, they were done. You alright, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty much.
Yeah. Gotcha. But it's like, that's the terms.
It's simple terms. I asked them to be respectful of them, and...
Yes. And they threw it back in your face. And then you throw on top of that the fact that they go out of their way and are cheating actively in these duels. You have a card that says in its effect, this thing cannot be special summoned. It's a pendulum monster. They're using a card to special summon it from the pendulum zone. You can't do that. It says it cannot be special summoned.
By other ways.
Exactly. You cannot play it. And then once that got brought to my attention, I'm like, time out, hold the fuck up. He's been doing what?
Right. I mean, wasn't it one of my group members, or was it me that stated something to you about it?
It was actually, I think it might have been one of your group members at the time. But darn it, I don't remember if it was Red Baron or Shaggy 3D. It was one of those two. It was someone who had made mention of that card combo. And it's like, wait a second, he can't do that. Because I was building the same kind of deck for KeiyarlaDraga. It's like, this doesn't work.
Right.
This does not work. So to find out that they've been under the table and on top of the table screwing us over, it's like, well, you blew your chance. You had one chance.
Mm-hmm.
One chance to you know, bring yourself back into proper light and everything.
And you know, I'm a man that believes in second chances, and you know, you bit off too much more than what they could chew. That's what it boils down to.
I mean, for me mainly, it's just that. I give out second chances if I feel the person deserves it. If they're being honest, if they're being sincere, if they actually regretted the actions that they did, and you could tell at the time they did, then yeah. But then to turn around and use it as a way to try and screw us over, well, once we found out about that card effect and everything, we stripped them of the title. We're like, no. You legally did not win the championship in that duel. There is no way that you could have legally won the championship special summoning that card when it was illegal to special summon.
Mm-hmm.
It is not yours. And we returned the title to the previous holder.
You know, I mean, you and I both know all too well how it feels to be betrayed multiple times.
Yeah. But
You know, both.
as much as I hate to say it, this one we kind of saw coming too, just because their actions didn't add up. I mean, it was suspicious. It started getting weird.